Hi guys, welcome back to another Random Fact Friday. This time we're gonna fuck around in Hades 2 a little bit. Chris, what did you think of Hades 1?
I haven't actually played either game.
Oh. Well, I just realized that I was in the middle of a run, so I'm gonna go ahead and give up on that and restart from the crossroads.
Well, you could have
Hades.
made it to the end.
No, I was only in the first area.
Uh,
So, I played the first game a whole lot. Uh, and,
but now that you're a lesbian instead of a gay man, you aren't playing as often.
well, no, I it's how do I put this nicely? Hades is a hard game. Like like like
Well, yeah.
it's not easy. It's kind of easy to get to the end, but to get to the end in a way where you are good enough to what's the word? You are good enough to
Kick your dad's ass.
yeah, to kick your dad's ass is a whole nother story. Because I've got into what's the word? Uh, I've got into Hades. I got into Hades on several occasions up on the top floor, but I think I've only ever beaten him. I've obviously beaten him enough times to finish the game on my first save file, but on my current new save file that I'm playing in preparation for when Hades 2 eventually finishes and comes out. I think I've only beat him twice.
Huh.
Yeah. So I'm not as good at the Hades. I'm not as good as the Hades machine as I actually am.
You're not actually good at roguelike.
Well, no,
What do you think?
it's not a case of me being bad or good at roguelikes. It's just roguelikes are different. Like each roguelike is a little different. Oh shit. Okay, so they've updated it so the gifts have actual icons now. That's exciting. I don't remember what I was gonna say.
800 minutes in a mile.
800 minutes in a fart.
So I was at Hobby Lobby earlier to return something,
Uh huh.
and it took 45 minutes
Huh.
uh, because. So I go up there, and there's two cash registers open. And one of them has a lady who has a whole pile of stuff, and two kids who are looking bored out of their mind, and one kid who's sort of acting out because he keeps going around and messing with stuff on the displays,
Uh huh.
or he keeps fucking with the auto sensor of the door.
Uh huh.
Meanwhile, there's a girl with a toy who's just playing with that, and she keeps angrily yelling at him, at the
Oof.
lady, while she's doing this transaction. And basically, apparently, what she's doing is she's returning some items, but also checking if other items are on sale or not. And if they are not on sale, like she thought they were, she's saying, "Okay, you keep those, and I'm only buying what was on sale." And she's doing this for every single item, and she has multiple bags in her cart.
That she's
That she is,
returning.
yes, and then she also had so she only had one cart, but there was a bunch of bags in part of it, and there was a bunch of items that she was buying.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Nasty.
And so then I'm like, okay, whatever fuck that is, I'll go to the other one. And then this young lady immediately just goes, "Oh, sorry, we only do returns on the first aisle. So you have to go back to that line and wait."
Oh. Oh,
And I'm like, okay, fine. This is when I just entered the store.
Uh huh.
Mind you, I'm returning some stuff for mounting a picture to a wall
Uh huh.
that turns out isn't applicable for what I'm using it for, because I'm trying to mount a woolly mammoth skull to a wall,
Mm-hmm.
and the way it just is, and the way the brackets are, they want it fit right. Anyway, so I was returning it, and it's $3 and 20 some odd cents. which I managed to get a return of after 45 minutes. But it's like, so I have to go back to the line, uh, and then yeah, so I'm back in the first line, waiting on this lady still, and then that's at the point where the second cash register lady just dips. Like
Oof.
she signs out, puts a cash register closed sign up, and then leaves. And so I'm waiting in line behind this lady who's doing all these return stuff. Um, and then there's a line forming behind me as well
Oh
of
my
like people who are
god.
trying to actually check out, I believe. There was a lady, and I recognized her and her son because her son dropped his phone, and it had a screen protector, so it didn't crack the phone, but it did like crack the paneling off of the screen protector, and it was weirdly it looked weird. And I made like thing like, yeah, that's gotta suck. And she's like, this is his fourth screen protector. Anyway, they were waiting behind me.
Uh-huh.
I'm still waiting behind. I'm just gonna call her Karen. Karen, Karen one, and she's doing this all with the cashier who doesn't really know how to return items.
Uh-huh. Also on
And
top of
so,
her wanting to like check for items that she's returning if they're on sale or not.
yeah. So at one point, the manager comes over and is just kind of like, she's sort of walking through the cashier how to do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, the manager is still there talking to her, and then two more ladies get in this line. So this line is now 6 strong. Uh, and at no point does she call anyone over to fill in one of the other 3 cash registers.
Jesus Christ.
And then at some point, a lady comes in and she's on the verge of tears saying how she reserved this table that they had for sale, but she went over there and it's not there anymore, and now she's like upset about it. But she had like a little kid with her, and the little kid was kind of running around, and apparently like they actually pulled it and put it in the back for her. And so the
Like
guy comes around, and so the manager turns focus onto that, and then they call up more employees. And so now there's like 5 employees at the front. Still only 1 cash register going. The line is now 7 strong, and Karen is still here with the item, yelling at her kid because her kid is acting out because he's bored out of his mind. He's probably been here for an hour. He's 6. Like, at least the girl, like, so they had like windmills. She got like the dinky little ones that are like plastic that you can just like blow in,
uh-huh.
right? Whatever those are called. Anyway, I'm like, just at one point, I was like, just give your son one of those to play with. And she was like, no, that's not for him. And meanwhile, the girl is doing the same thing, but with like an Iron Man one that she
Uh-huh.
had.
Uh-huh.
And she was upset that she couldn't get it to work. And I'm like, oh, you got to pull the tab out at the bottom of it
Oh
so that will
no.
actually turn on. And it's like, oh yeah, and then she does that, and she actually turns it on, and starts like messing with stuff. And then the kid just starts like playing in the shopping cart. The son, anyway, the mom's still angry about that, but it's like, ma'am, you're taking 3 hours to do something right now. But yeah, so there's line 7 strong. They end up bringing the table out that the lady was upset because she thought it was like gone. But she's now gone
What
because
the
she, like, I think took her kid to the bathroom or something. And so now it's just hectic. And then eventually one person's there, and one another employee like sees stuff struggling. So she goes to one of the cash registers, but goes to, like, the cash register that's furthest away from where everyone's at. And so she starts like opening up, and she's like, I can help someone over here. And apparently, the only one fucking hears her. And I'm like, can you help me? I'm doing a return. She's like, oh no, you have to stay at the first register to do that. And so then I have to physically start telling other people in line of like, yeah, she's open. Go to her if you don't have a return. Because none of them can hear her because she chose the cash register that's like 6 away from everyone else
Well, she
for
might have.
some reason.
She might have. She might have did that to keep people from actually coming over.
Maybe.
It would be funny.
And then we do that, and then eventually Karen gets done, and she spent like 200 some odd dollars, and then left. And 200 some odd dollars actually is expensive for Hobby Lobby because Hobby Lobby is a scam. And then I'm like, okay, I like to return this, and then the cashier doesn't know how to return the item, so she has to wait for her manager to help me return the item. And I'm like, yeah, fucking damn it. It took so long.
Yeah, so I'm okay. I'm gonna tell you something that if it
I haven't read an actual fact. 1 second.
No, it's okay. I'm gonna read off a story of my own, and it's gonna be a secret that if it ever gets out,
Some make sound waves we can't hear from the form of pressure waves. Okay, go ahead.
If this gets out to my own work, I might get in trouble. So I won't even say where I work, just in case. So whenever somebody comes up with a return, with me, what's supposed to happen is like, oh, if it's $1 more expensive or $1 less expensive, they either have to pay $1 more or they get $1 back. And I have determined that's fucking stupid. So if it's just the same item, if they're like, it's like, oh, I didn't like the smell, so I'm getting like a different like scent. I'm like, okay, I will just make it like I will match the price essentially, and give it to them that way. Because I'm not gonna tell this person like you actually need to like pay $1 more or yada yada yada. Because people get annoyed when that happens, and I'm like, I'm sorry, it's store policy, or blah 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 blah. Or I just try and get into a situation where I don't have to do a return. Yeah, no, like, I get if you, like, don't know what it smells like, that's fine, like, you need to do, like, if it's not, like, what you thought it was and you have to return, I get that, that's fine, I'm not upset with you. But any other situation, go fuck yourself. Do you want to get into why you needed mounting equipment? Because I'm pretty sure everybody would love to hear that story. I don't mean that in like a sarcastic, bitchy way, because like that situation's what the fuck as well.
Okay, I'm gonna read off a couple more random facts.
Okay.
Mount Everest isn't the tallest mountain on Earth. Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa in Hawaii are twin volcanoes that are taller than Mount Everest due to their 4.2 kilometer of their heights being submerged underwater.
Good for them.
Our solar system has a wall. It's called the heliopause. It's a region of space in which our solar wind isn't hot enough to push back against the wind particles coming from distant stars. It is often considered the boundary wall of our solar interstellar space. So there's a glass dome, but it's not around the flat Earth. It's around the solar system.
Flat solar system
theory. And it's made out of gas, actually. Octopuses don't actually have tentacles. They have 8 limbs, but their arms, for most species, technically, when talking about cephalopods, octopus, squids, scientists find tentacles as limbs with suckers on the end. At their end, octopus arms have suckers all the way down, most of their length, but not at the tips.
Care to tell us what one of those limbs are on an octopus?
Most maps of the world their arms are wrong. On maps, the Mercator projection, which is first developed in 1569, is still used. The method is wildly inaccurate and makes Alaska appear as large as Brazil and Greenland 14 times larger than it actually is. For a map to be completely accurate, it cannot be flat. because the Earth is round.
Yes.
Oh, not according to Smiling Friends.
We don't talk about Smiling Friends.
Smiling Friends is a decent show.
I mean, well, I mean,
That was one of their jokes, was that they went to space because like they got abducted by aliens or something. It turns out the Earth is actually flat.
how do so yeah.
And the joke is like, I'm gonna be sick. And it's like we can tell nobody.
We can tell nobody that the world is flat.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's funny because they got like other planets and those around.
I was about to say, um, so you know why? So you know how you have like problems with Rick and Morty's art style, and it makes it kind of like sick just looking at it, right?
Is that the same thing for Smiley Frenzy?
Yeah, yeah. I like. How do I like? Okay, so I am a person who enjoys Gumball, and like Gumball's like multi like animation style.
I'm
and all
not
that.
sure how that you're fine with that, but
Yeah, no, I know.
Smiley Friends.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what the what the ish is. Like I look at like Smiling Friends and I'm like, but like Gumball, it's like, oh, this is fun. But yeah, I mean, maybe I just need to sit down and like actually give it a go and see how it is. But yeah. Anyway, would you like to tell people why you needed mounting equipment? Because this is a completely other story that will make you go WTF.
Okay, so I guess to roll this story back, we have to go all the way to a pre-pandemic world.
Why?
There was a replica woolly mammoth skull that I had my eyes on when I started collecting fossils. And it was always around like $100 plus shipping. So I never I was always like, I'll just buy a couple cheaper things as opposed to going on the big one. And then the pandemic hit, and I couldn't find it for fucking sale for like 3-4 years. And it was like, okay, I guess I'll never get it again. And then roll around to this year, where I end up graduating college for technically the third time with my third degree. And then we talked and you were like, hey, should I get you a graduation? Like, sure. And like, what do you have in mind? You're like, well, just send me a link to like a fossil thing to get you. And you're like, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And then when I was looking around, when I was going to start looking around, my dad found advertisement for the mammoth skull because he uses sites like Mercari and some other stuff to like sell stuff on. And I'm like, oh, it's on Mercari. And it's like, no, it's a Mercari link to another website called Apollo Box. Which, don't use Apollo Box. Here's my scathing endorsement. Don't use Apollo Box. Because they've been kind of shitty. Anyway.
So I didn't know this like spanned all the way back to COVID. Like I thought this was just like a what's the word? Like, hey, here's like one that I found and I think it looks pretty cool, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll get it for you. But please continue.
Alright, so you agreed to give me like half of what it was for sale for.
Yeah.
And then I managed to find a discount site, a code that got me like 75% off. And so I was able to actually pay for it for fairly cheap. So I got it for like, I think I paid close to, I can pull it up with this. Apollo. I'm searching my email for the initially.
Okay, no, it's all good. I'm just, I'm flabbergasted that like this is a story that has spanned years apparently. Like, holy shit.
Okay, I think it's get it for 75% off. I got 30% off. It was initially going to be $300, and I ended up paying like with shipping $223. So got this replica mammoth skull. It takes them over 2 months to even ship it to me after purchasing. And that was me sending multiple emails saying like, hey, this hasn't even been shipped yet, and it's past the date it should have been delivered by. Because it showed you in the status of like, your order is purchased, then processing, then shipped, and then in transit out for delivery, etc. It had been in processing. Well, it was in order for 2 weeks, and then it was in processing for like 2 months. And then they're like, oh, it's been shipped. And then within 3 days, it arrived at my door.
Oh, no.
So my guess is that they didn't update it when it actually shipped. Which means I think they just failed to update them. Okay, then it arrives. 1, it's smaller than expected. But it's still pretty decent size. 2, it was advertised as coming in 1 solid piece. It's supposed to be... It's a woolly mammoth skull. And it's the upper jaw. Well, the skull, including the upper jaw. And there's the lower jaw and the tusks. It was advertised as coming in 1 complete unit that you would just hang on a wall with a mounting bracket already in the as shown in the pictures. It arrives in 4 pieces. The skull, the lower jaw, and the 2 tusks are all separate from one another. It's in a box that's styrofoam and actively crumbling to the point that every time I open this fucking box, it starts falling apart on my floor. And it was also like pretty. It was kind of banged up, but not too bad. It clearly came from like Hong Kong. There's a brand on the back of the skull, which I can't make out the name because it's in like Mandarin. Instead of a mounting bracket, there's a piece of twine that you are to hang it from. This thing weighs 40 pounds. I don't think the twine's gonna hold.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. God, it. Oh, sorry.
So I'm not so surprised that the tusk came separately, because I've had other fossil replicas that I've gotten, and it's like, okay, for ease of shipment, stuff like broke apart and then you put it together. Like, I have an elasmotherium skull that the horn you kind of slot into place, and the lower jaw you kind of slot into place. A lot of skulls, the lower and upper jaws are separate. They slot into place. A couple of them are like they screw into place on like different support structures. I have a couple skeletons that like the limbs were broken apart, and so you have to like kind of pop them together and like assemble it. That's understandable. It didn't come with any assembly instructions, so I'm kind of shit out of luck as what to do. Granted, I had another replica that came that also didn't come with assembly instructions. It was a whole Diplocala skeleton, but I was able, so it didn't come with any written instructions, but on the side of the box it showed each individual piece, and then it kind of showed it like the order they would go together. So it's like I was able to kind of figure it out. And that's not as bad because the sports were pretty solid on that one. Although I wish you would tell me what lungfish species was included with it, because I want to make a fossil card for this whole ass lungfish replica I have now, because it came free with the Diplocala skeleton, which was pretty neat. But I have no fucking idea what species. And I'm like, I've tried looking it up. I can't find shit. Like, it could be this one, it could be this one, it could be this one. I don't fucking... Anyway, back to the mammoth. The tusks I figured out, and I have skull, but they arrived instead of like normally, instead of, they usually slot into place or screw into place with like threaded screws on each side. Like it would be one on the top of the tusk and one where the tusk meets the skull. You screw it in place. Instead, there's these little dinky magnets that it came with that are attached into the tusk and the skull. But the magnets are too small to support the weight of the tusk. So they fall out of the skull. Obviously, that's not good for wall hanging. So I ended up doing it earlier this week, which was kind of a nightmare of its own because we found out our basement has like a slow leak. It's not one of the pipes, but it was just raining really heavily, and we live next to an alley, and so the water was kind of going into the basement that way. So I had to put a bunch of towels and fans down there. But anyway, I epoxy resined the tusks in place, and it looks not the greatest, but it looks better than it did, and it actually holds the weight. And I used epoxy because epoxy is usually stronger when it comes to bonding plastic to plastic. Most super glues don't tend to do that well with plastic to plastic bonding. It's just a kind of a quirk. You have to kind of rough up the surface really hard, and even then it might not work.
Yeah.
Also, most super glues, if you try and do anything styrofoam, won't work because they'll just melt a hole in the styrofoam. That's why I use a lot. I see hot glue is often used for styrofoam. So
Well,
I don't know if that's actually good to do.
No, not really. As somebody who, what's the word? Back when he was doing graphic design classes at his college, and one of them, we were like, let's use some like styrofoam and like garden foam, like for the project. I tried hot gluing like to styrofoam and shit. It did not work. It melts both.
Tack glue would work real well, probably. That's like the fabric ones.
Mm-hmm.
That'd probably work.
Yeah. So.
Anyway.
No,
back to the story.
Yeah, well, I was gonna talk about like how I never heard like I talked about it a little bit, but I never heard the like you've been wanting this since the pandemic like part of the story, and now hearing that makes it like what's the word? Just a little sadder because like this was a mammoth school that you were excited about, but now it's just been a nightmare for you.
Yeah. So I ended up buying, after trial and error, I think I found the right mounting bracket. It still is not up on because I still haven't fully assembled it yet. I think I found the right mounting bracket to be able to like hang it on a wall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have to find a stud in the wall to do it with, to drill it in place. And in order to figure out how to attach the bottom jaw, which is baffling to me, because most skull replicas, they usually have like a ridge or a hinge that you can kind of like slot the lower jaw into, especially if it's supposed to be like put on display. And a lot of places you'll see like they'll just glue it in place, but I don't necessarily want to do it because I want to be able to like move and position the jaw, and so I don't just want to glue it in place. And so I was kind of like really struggling to think of a way to do it. And I ended up talking to a neighbor who advised me, like, why don't you call a taxidermy place?
Oh.
And I'm like, that's a good idea. And so I called a taxidermy place earlier, and I was like, hey, I'm wondering how you like attach jaws to skulls, particularly like, if you're just doing like a skull mount and not necessarily like covering up with the flesh and the fur. Well, the Fox approximation of flesh and fur. And they're like, well, walk you through it. Well, what are you working on? And I'm like, oh, a mammoth. So that was a fun conversation. I was like, where the fuck did you get a mammoth? I'm like, it's a replica. But they're like, we talked through, and they're like, yeah, probably your best bet is probably like fishing twine. Like high strength fishing twine. So I bought some that has like, I think it's like 50-pound capacity. I'm going to try to do that. And I'm going to drill little holes through the bottom jaw and through part of the upper skull and just be able to tie them together that way.
Uh-huh.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was focusing, sorry.
Quiet.
Yeah, no.
Lock in.
Yeah, I had to lock in. I was fighting Hecate.
Okay.
But so I assume I thought you said you were gonna return it, but did you like decide that was gonna be too much?
Okay, so that has been a whole ass as well.
Oh.
Because I have been for the past 2 weeks trying to get a hold of Apollo Box.
Just like, hey, Dick Nips, your mammoth skull sucks ass. God, and
One second.
you've had like some pretty like good experiences with like fossil buying, right?
What?
Besides this encounter, you've had some pretty like okay encounters with like buying fossils, right?
For the most part, sometimes it's been like this isn't great. Like I have a Rurognatha skeleton where like the plate that it's in literally warped in shipping, so now it's curved and so
Yeah.
it's weird. And then I have an Ichthyosaurus skeleton that broke in shipping, but I managed to fix those.
Oh, I don't mean like the fossils themselves. I mean like the customer service experience. Like
Yeah, generally they're pretty alright.
yeah, because remember that one time where I bought you like a group of like small fossils, and then you got it, and it's like they're like it like they weren't like advertised as it like as they were, and I'm like, oh shit, and so you sent pictures of them, and I sent the pictures to the Etsy website, to the Etsy like guys who like sent the fossils, and I'm like, hey, so like nice fossils like so far, however I didn't get like
That was through eBay actually, and I
huh?
was like, "Yeah, you sent us stuff that we didn't order. We ordered this instead." And they're like, "Oh shit, yeah, we'll send."
Yeah, like they were like we'll like we'll send the correct one, and we'll even send like another one for free, and it's like, oh, thanks.
Okay, so I'm looking at my correspondence with Apollo Bucks when I've scheduled for support a few times. Okay, so I believe it's this. And there we go. So I messaged them basically, hey, and I gave like an in-depth review of like, hey, the woolly mammoth wall, like skull, the woolly mammoth skull wall mount I purchased is not what was advertised. Its skull quality is pretty good. It cannot be said about structural quality as the replicas arrived after not insignificant delay in a styrofoam box that was actively disintegrating. Despite being shown as a single piece, that consists of four separate pieces, two tusks, the skull and the lower jaw, which must be assembled, and there was no instructions on how to do so. Instead of the tusks screwing in place, typically when on a similar model, they attach to a small magnets, but not powerful enough to support the weight of the tusks, or hold them in place. It's then supposed to mount to a wall, but instead of a bracket, there's a piece of string. The jaw is advertised as being attached to the skull as one solid piece, but is a separate piece with really no way to actually attach it. Um, And then after a week, they responded with, uh, "Yeah, our support staff will review your inquiry and reply within 3 business days."
And it has been more than 3 business days.
Hang on, no, I got more.
Okay, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
All right. Then they messaged after 3 business days. Sorry for the issue. If it was shipped in one piece, the packaging would be quite large. You need instructions to assemble it.
Uh-huh.
And so then I respond with, the package does not come with instructions. However, there's more glaring issues as I've previously outlined. And then I restated everything that was wrong with the model. And then they're like, hi, can you share some photos? This is after 3 days ago. Because I can communicate with the vendor. And then I sent several photos. 3 days later, thanks for sharing. I will have the vendor provide a solution for a week later. Uh,
Nothing
one
looks
second.
wrong here, Chief.
Don't you have anything else? I'll be messing with you, babe. Please don't. I mean, I just.
One second.
I heard you went up top. Gotta breathe some fresh surface air.
For some reason, my email account is being hard to navigate.
It's all good.
Though, it does sound pretty exciting, but I'd probably just be getting in the way. From what I hear, your whole family would be in peril. So?
Apparently, this is the person that they put in touch where it's the vendor.
Uh huh.
Hi there. For the installation of your product name here,
Shut
please
the
refer to
fuck
the
up!
angle
No.
of the yeah. Please refer to the angle of the ivory as shown to the attached image. Additionally, you will find detailed instruction manuals with images included in your reference. Please follow the following guidelines to ensure proper installation. If you need any questions or if you need further assistance, feel free to reach out for us at insert client name here, Apollo Box Team. And then there's a instruction manual where the instruction manual is just a picture that shows like the jaw and the skull are movable and connects on both sides with wire as shown in the diagram. And it shows a separate diagram where they show wire that they just strung between the jaw and it looks real shitty. And it's not as advertised.
Chris, holy shit.
Yeah. So that's been my fun experience.
This feels like a Temu situation.
Pretty much. So I'm yeah.
Holy shit! This situation would have been just like for me if the vendor was just like sucks to be you, loser. But this feels worse. Damn, I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
Stop saying meh like fucking King from the Owl House. Nah. Damn, I deadass don't know how to respond.
How long have we been recording?
38 minutes.
Bye, guys. Guys, no fun, everyone.
Good boy, everybody.
Is that a random face? We just talked.